Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Continue monitoring of the president's remarks, and I mean no offense to him or some of you might want to continue hearing, but I did have to say that even though the former president is entitled to his opinions, he's not entitled to his own set of facts. The market has indeed been going up, but having nothing to do with him and everything to do with this hiking in interest rates and stabilized inflation. Whether you want to give Biden credit for that, has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Furthermore, he mentioned about gas prices out of whack, $6 a gallon. The national average right now is $3.26 cents a gallon. He went on to talk about the 2020 election and how that was rigged. This has been adjudicated many, many times, dozens of times. It's been investigated by everyone and his uncle. No fewer than 44 investigations launched, some of them by judges that were picked by Donald Trump himself, that found no evidence of that in the 7 battleground states where most of them were focused. Donald Trump lost each and every one of those states, and no facts or no history that he mentions on the stump right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host. That was what Fox News needs to do now whenever they let Donald Trump footage play live. They need to cut away, almost at the beginning of it, because he just starts lying and lying and lying. And then they have to do a disclaimer that's longer than the clip they played of him to cover their butts, I'll use the term. Because, of course, they got sued and had to settle for $787 million because they told lies on the air. And now, whenever they cover Donald Trump doing a speech, in this case, the victory speech in South Carolina, one of the speeches in South Carolina, I think it might have been the victory speech. Doesn't really matter what speech it was. All of his speeches are just absolutely crazy, full of lies, lies, and more lies. So even Fox News can't run them. MSNBC started to say long, long ago, yes, Donald Trump is doing a speech right now. And no, we are not running it because it's just full of lies. If by chance he lights himself on fire, either accidentally or on purpose, then we'll go to live coverage. But other than that, we're not going to play his BS on our network. And Fox can't, because they were already held liable. They're scared poopless of spreading more 2020 election fraud lies. And that's all Donald Trump does. Donald Trump's running for president. And all he talks about is, some of it is funny and some of it is scary. I have entitled this episode, Biden's Secret Weapon to Ensure Victory is Named Trump. Fox just simply cannot save him, can't save him from himself. Laura Ingraham did a town hall, quote unquote, because it really was just a propaganda BS. And she kept having to do the same thing, like trying to cover up for all of Trump's lies. At one point, Trump even said, well, I can't say that because it's Fox, and I know you guys get, so I can't go into that, but I won big in 2020. This is another thing that Republicans have been saying and Trump has been saying, and this is why Trump is his worst enemy and Biden's secret weapon to ensure victory. Here's a clip from that quote-unquote town hall.
Speaking of that, how are you going to make sure that mail-in ballots and voter fraud, which we heard from a lot of people in line, was an issue front and center? They're very concerned about mail-in voting. So forget the past. What are you going to do to make sure we don't have problems going forward?
If you have mail-in voting, you automatically have fraud. If you have
there's mail-in voting in Florida, and you won huge.
That's right. If you have it, you're going to have fraud.
But you won.
Because
So anyway, he goes on to some stupid crap, but you can see in this clip, I know you can't see it, but on video, Laura Ingraham just has a disgusted look on her face. She's like, I can't work with this MF piece of S anymore. I just can't do it. He's too dumb. By the way, I'm catching a whiff of something that is going to keep me up all night. He's disgusting. So she's trying to get him to say, people who are standing in line for hours are concerned about mail-in voting. They want to have mail-in voting. And he says, if you have mail-in voting, you have fraud. And she's like, okay, but you have mail-in voting in Florida and you won huge there. And that's where she had the disgusting look on her face, like, are you kidding me? So then he goes on to pontificate further about why mail-in voting is bad. In Florida, it was the GOP that was pushing mail-in voting because, you know, we all know that Florida is geriatric, right? It's mostly retired old people who want to vote mail-in. They don't want to go to their polling place on election day. Trump himself voted mail-in ballot at least a few times. Now he's saying this. He's discouraging the GOP. Mail-in voting is overwhelmingly now, for instance, in Pennsylvania, 86% of mail-in votes went to the Dems. So it's just hilarious that Trump is further suppressing the GOP vote. People want to vote for me. It's beautiful. But they got to show up at the polls. I know a lot of them can't. I know a lot of them are near death. Many of my supporters are near death and can't walk. But you got to make it to the polls. He said something a couple months ago about, you know, even if it's the last thing you do, you could vote for me and then drop dead. I don't care. Seriously. This is the kind of stuff this guy is saying. And then we got to get more voters. Who can we get? Who can we get? With the black people. Oh, sir, hey, I have an idea. You know, the black people, you know, and he's very careful. You can tell he's very heavily coached to say black people instead of how he used to refer to them or how he still does refer to them. But I can't do that in a microphone. I can't, you know, they're suppressing my First Amendment speech. I can't say what I really feel. I can't say what I really call them into a microphone. Or they'll get all upset. Everybody will be upset. So here is, let me find the clip. Here is what the GOP, this isn't even Trump. This is a guy on Fox News. I call him the fascist white supremacist Pee Wee Herman because I wish you could see what he looks like. He looks like Pee Wee Herman. He's got a suit and Pee Wee Herman hair. His eyes are all wide. He's got a Pee Wee Herman face. He's way over enthusiastic when he speaks, and he thinks he's a genius. And here's what, I mean, this is unbelievable. You may or may not have heard this, but you got to hear this because this is just, I mean, this is beyond Saturday Night Live skit.
Even the sneaker thing. I was on social media last night. Very interesting. As you see black support eroding from Joe Biden, this is connecting with black America because they love sneakers. They're into sneakers. They love this is a big deal, certainly in the inner city. So when you have Trump roll out his sneaker line, they're like, wait a minute, this is cool. He's reaching them on a level that defies and is above politics. The culture always trumps politics. And Trump understands culture like no politician I've ever seen.
Question for you on that point, though.
Yeah.
Will the people that are excited about the sneakers and excited about Donald Trump, will that translate into them going out and voting for Donald Trump?
Well, anybody willing to put $400 down for a pair of sneakers? Yeah, I think that's commitment and love. It's something. Right. It's something. It's affection.
Commitment and love and affection. That's creepy, especially if you could see this guy saying this. He's so overenthusiastic and he thinks like, I mean, but of course you can tell. I don't think I need to analyze it, but all I'm thinking is he's talking about them like they're animals. They love this. Trump knows this. What are the black people like? They like sneakers, especially in the inner city. And now Trump is duping them into supporting him. All he's got to do is, just like he threw the paper towels at Puerto Rico victims of a hurricane, he's just throwing the sneakers at the black people. Can we call them black people? Because I was heavily coached backstage, and that's the current term I'm supposed to use. Is that right? Yeah. So Trump understands how to handle these people. These people. All he has to do is put out a sneaker. And by the way, these ugly sneakers, first of all, apparently, and I don't know anything about this, but I've heard that there's some company that has sort of a patent or a copyright on red soles on sneakers, and these sneakers have red soles. That company is threatening to sue Trump. Also, these are very ugly sneakers. They're high tops. They're gold, just like his toilet. And he just basically pasted a T and a vague American flag sort of thing on the side. You can buy these exact sneakers without the T for Trump and the American flag thing on another website for $19.99. They look exactly the same. And even those are a scam on some site where you can pre-order these. We don't know if we're ever going to get them to you, but pay us now. And that's the Trump thing, except he's selling them for $400. And this chucklehead fascist Pee Wee Herman, he simultaneously is saying, oh, you know, all you got to do is throw these people some sneakers and they'll vote for Trump. And then she says, well, is that going to turn votes? Because it seems like anybody who would buy these ugly Trump sneakers were already going to vote for Trump. Is somebody who's like, I was going to vote for Biden, but now because of these sneakers, I'm going to buy the sneakers, and the sneakers are going to make me vote for Trump? And then this guy says, hey, anybody that would pay $400 for sneakers, that's love and affection. So, of course, it's going to turn vote. I mean, God. And this is the same guy who said, you know, black people can really relate to Trump's mugshot, because we all know black people, they all have mugshots because they're all criminals, right? So, I mean, this is the same guy who did that back last summer when Trump got his mugshot, or last fall, whenever it was. And he said, this is really going to turn black people toward Donald Trump, because a lot of them can relate to having to have a mugshot. They think they're like, hey, I understand black people, but they're yeah, you know what I'm thinking. I think we all agree on that. And also, he's saying things about, I'm going to be a dictator my first day. He said, women love me. Women are going to love me because suburban women, I'm going to win them over. Because gangs are going to come into their neighborhoods and they're going to want Trump. They're going to want Trump in the way. Suburban women are going to love me. But here's some of the scary stuff. Militia camps, internment camps. This is from the Washington Post. People who were in the previous Trump administration are saying things like, during his term, Trump learned to install more officials at the Department of Homeland Security who would carry out his orders instead of trying to curb his impulses. Throughout his current campaign, the former president has exerted his influence on the immigration policy debate on several fronts. He pressured congressional Republicans to reject the bipartisan compromise border bill to expand enforcement funding and powers, arguing that it would give the Democrats a political victory. He doesn't care about the border. He doesn't care about even the lies that he's spewing. Even if those lies were true, he doesn't care about that. He wants to build internment camps and put migrants in internment camps. He says he's going to do the biggest deportation in American history. But when he's talking about internment camps, that usually turns into something else. At least in the history of the world here, internment camps turn into something else. Trump wants to build internment camps. You know who else built internment camps? The Nazis, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. And it turned into, first we'll just throw in the migrants and the kids, they can go in one camp and maybe we can make them work before we kill them. But then I want to go after the media. I want to take away the licenses of the fake media. And then I want to go and I want to take those people. I want to throw them into internment camps. And, there's probably not enough room for them really to stay. It's the Nazis. It's a Nazi maneuver. Again, you've heard me say it 100 times. You're going to hear me say it 1,000 more times before Election Day. Any vote for Dean Phillips, any vote. By the way, No Labels has completely collapsed. They don't have a candidate. They don't have a plan. Apparently, Manchin was going to be their candidate, and Dick Durbin had a talk with Manchin and said, what you're doing is just idiotic and going to make America into Nazi Germany, right? So even Joe Manchin said, yeah, okay, I won't be the No Labels candidate. So No Labels is done. But a vote for No Labels, a vote for Jill Stein, a vote for anyone else other than Biden will ensure that Trump or Nikki Haley will be in the White House and the United States will turn into 1938 Nazi Germany. Nikki Haley is in favor of a 6-week national abortion ban. 6 weeks, people don't even know you're pregnant. So that's a complete abortion ban. Thousands, at the very least, of women will die unnecessarily, even if Nikki Haley gets in the White House, much less Trump. Any vote this November, other than voting for Biden for president, will turn the United States into Nazi Germany. And they're coming for, they will ban gay marriage. They will ban interracial marriage. They will ban contraception. They will make, they're telling us this. They're saying this. It's written and they're saying it in microphones. But the first thing we're going to do when we come back from our break, we're going to go back in time and we're going to do a very uplifting and happy story when we come back on A Satellite View. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back. Satellite View. If you like the music, go to toddmikkelson.com, push the music link, find this and a lot more music. And more to come. Actually had a photo shoot that's adding to the art of a new release I want to put up on that music link. So we'll have even more brand new music. If you're interested, not forcing you, but you know what I mean. Hey! On A Satellite View here, we like to go up to a satellite view, look back down on Earth, look backwards in time, and maybe even forward in time. We want to have an overall satellite view. We're going to go back in time to a sad event in 2012. Trayvon Martin was a 17-year-old African-American from Miami Gardens, Florida, who was fatally shot by an overzealous, crazy a-hole who had a gun. Too many guns, too many crazy people, especially in Florida. Trayvon Martin was visiting, I think, his stepmother's house. And he went to a convenience store and got some, I think, like some candy and a drink. And then he was walking back to his stepmother's house. And some guy who was on neighborhood watch saw him and noticed that he was a young black man, very young black man, 17 years old. Not even a man yet, a child. And he was wearing a hoodie. Ooh, scary. It's nighttime. A black teenager in a hoodie. I must shoot him. Which really is basically what happened. Of course, it's probably more complicated than that, but Trayvon Martin did not have a gun or anything like that. He was a 17-year-old boy. He wanted to be a pilot. He was doing extra studying. He was at an aviation camp starting when he was even younger, like 12 or 13 or something. He was inspired by, he wanted to be a pilot. He was a young boy. But because of the color of his skin and the fact he was wearing a hoodie, he was murdered by a crazy jerk with a gun. And it was huge news at the time. To some of us, it doesn't even seem like that long ago. But it was February 26th, 2012. And by the way, I'm speaking at you from Sunday, February 25th. And now, the happy part of the story. I want to move forward 2 years to 10 years ago. Again, we're talking on February 25. This happened on February 27th, 2014. President Obama, our president at the time, he started something called My Brother's Keeper. A lot of people know it as MBK. That's what My Brother's Keeper is all about. No, that's not. He doesn't have a Canadian accent. That's what My Brother's Keeper is all about. Helping more of our young people stay on track, providing the support they need to think more broadly about their future, building on what works, when it works, in those crucial life-changing moments. Barack Obama came up with this, and he's still doing it under his foundation. Very involved in it. Summer of 2023. Now we move closer to current time. There was a Chicago to London exchange program with My Brother's Keeper. This is a program made for young black men. Obama was inspired by the Trayvon Martin story. Black men being wrongly accused and oppressed just because of their color of their skin and sometimes what they're wearing. This year, in the 10-year anniversary, Barack Obama has decided that there are 4 cities that he wants to feature. Tulsa, Oklahoma, where school attendance is up 33% with people of color. Yonkers, New York, right now a 91% graduation rate for students of color. A huge improvement over the years. Omaha, Nebraska, homicides down 30% since 2011. Newark, New Jersey, homicides down 55% since 2013. Attributed to these programs where black leaders work with young black men to make them feel safe, make them feel cared about, and inspire them to do the things that they're inspired to do with their lives, like Trayvon Martin wanting to be a pilot. I want to play for you this clip. So I'll keep interrupting this clip to tell you who's talking and what they're talking about. This is Andrew Smith, co-founder of The Healing Chicago. And he used funds from My Brother's Keeper to do programs for young black men. And they're showing photos of these guys just getting together and doing activities that you normally would do in like rich white schools that black young men don't have the same opportunities. I'm sorry, they don't.
We applied for the Freedom Summer Grant because we wanted to create safe spaces for Black and brown boys here in the city of Chicago.
This is Alex Levisque. He's the CEO of an automotive mentoring group. And they're showing clips of him working with teenage young Black guys, inspiring them to work on cars. Maybe it's going to make a living for them.
To be able to say that we are working in concert along with the Obama Foundation, it just means everything to me. It lets me know that I'm not working alone.
This is a culinary career experience in Martha's Vineyard.
Before I came here, I knew nothing about Martha's Vineyard. Everything here is beautiful.
We went fishing just off the coast of the vineyard. For a few of us, it was our first time.
I never thought I could be so close with people I only met 2 weeks ago. It's like, these are the brothers I never had.
They go on to more events like this. Young, oftentimes wayward. They don't have enough guidance possibly in their family or something like that. And this is a program that Obama got started in 2014 that has a lot of power behind it to get these guys a life. This is Obama now going to speak.
I knew this was MBK because I could hear the music out in the hall.
It felt good to hear President Obama just connect the work of programming and mentoring with youth and understanding that that is a part of this long-term fight and struggle to make sure that we maintain our democracy.
I want us to be honest and realistic in the work that we do. And that's the story we have to tell in our communities. Yeah, we can reverse these trends and improve outcomes, but it's not going to happen overnight. In this work, because it's so hard and it can be so discouraging, we have to constantly check ourselves. Is this working? And if it's not, let's change it. Let's try something different.
Also true of, say, something like the presidency. You remember how Republicans made fun of Barack Obama because he was just a community leader? What better credential to be the president of the United States than to be a community leader, a community organizer? A lot of good has come out of this program. I get choked up when I'm even now. A former president of the United States doing things like this, still to this day. This clip is from just a few weeks ago. And more announcements being made today because it's almost, we're 2 days away from the launch. So it's the 10th anniversary. Don't you want a former, do you want a former president who's like, it's a witch hunt, they're indicting me. Do you want a president committing 91 different crimes and those are only the ones that he was caught doing? Or do you want a president who does things like this and then says, we got to check this every day. And if it's not working, we got to change it so that it does work. That's what made Barack Obama a highly successful president. That's what's making Joe Biden a highly successful president. They're doing the work. They're not just going on TV and saying, I'm the president and I was, all the women love me. It's not a TV show. I wanted to dedicate some time to this program because I think it's one of the, truly really good things going on in our country. And we need to take some time to go through that as well. I know sometimes it's fun to make fun of the Republicans. And by the way, they are completely falling apart. A lot of good news in that as well. But I just really wanted to take some time to go through this. Yeah, I don't know. We need something to make us feel good, too. We got to talk about the Wisconsin maps. Again, we can go back in time. I remember in the 1980s, Wisconsin was more liberal than Minnesota, including for reproductive rights. I happen to personally know someone who got an abortion when she was very young, afraid to tell her parents. Went to Wisconsin. Couldn't do that in Minnesota. Wisconsin had more liberal women's reproductive rights. You could get an abortion in Wisconsin without having to tell your parents. Now, you can agree with that or not, but oftentimes one of the parents could be the cause of the pregnancy, and that's why that law is there. It's protecting teenage girls from incest. In order to get parental permission, you may be having to get permission from your rapist. Now, come to today, abortion is completely illegal in Wisconsin, and it's because of gerrymandering. Wisconsin used to be more liberal than Minnesota. Now Minnesota is one of the most liberal states in the country with this new legislative session, a whole nother subject, gun safety, women's healthcare rights protections, a lot of stuff that you've heard me talk about in past shows if you've been listening to the show. Now, some amazing things about Wisconsin. The state assembly right now is made up of 64 Republicans and 35 Democrats. But the popular vote for the state assembly, Democrats got 54% of the popular vote and the Republicans got 46% of the popular vote. Yet it's turned upside down. GOP has 64 to the Dems 35 in the state assembly. Does that sound fair to you? It goes against the will of the people. They have a Democratic governor. They have a Democratic senator. The statewide elections go for Democrats. But the state assembly is absolutely tipped toward Republicans. The governor just signed a redrawing of the maps that is going to be in effect in the 2024 election. Wisconsin went for Biden in 2020. Wisconsin is at least purple. Some would say perhaps it's blue. But at the state level, it's very, very red. And that's changed as of just a couple days ago, where Governor Evers signed into law a redrawing of the map that is happening immediately and will be in effect for 2024. The Milwaukee Journey Sentinel says the state will move from having 64 Republican-leaning assembly seats to 46 out of 99. 45 will lean Democratic, and 8 will have no partisan lean. Additionally, it will go from 22 Republican-leaning Senate seats to 15 out of 33. 14 will lean Democratic, and 4 are expected to be true toss-ups. Notice how these new maps don't turn everything upside down and give Democrats the huge advantage. Notice that these new maps turn everything to even, very close to even. Matter of fact, one more Republican-leaning seat than Democratic-leaning seat in both the House Assembly and the Senate. It's not gerrymandering in favor of Democrats. It's making things fair. It's making things equal. It's giving power back to the voters, to the citizens of the state. That's fair. When Democrats do things like this, they want to make things fair. When things are fair, elected officials have to do things for the people, not for themselves or Donald Trump. They have to do things for the people because the people then will vote them in or out of office. That's how it's supposed to be in this country. We got to get rid of money in politics. But in Wisconsin right now, things are going back to the way they were in the 1980s, when Wisconsin was even more liberal than Minnesota. Minnesota was pretty liberal back then too, but not as liberal as Wisconsin. And the reason that I'm saying it's going to be liberal is because the overwhelming vast majority of Americans are liberal. Media doesn't want you to know that. News and journalism, we got to get money out of that as well. The media just wants everything to be chaos so that you keep watching their channel. Yeah, I covered about hardly any of what I was hoping to cover. There's a lot going on this week with Trump. I didn't even talk about his legal issues this week. You may have heard a lot about it, so perhaps it's better that I covered some other stuff, including My Brother's Keeper, which I think is important, and we need to do that as well on a satellite view. This election year, it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be fun crazy. But still, we got to stick together, keep each other sane, help each other to argue for what's good and argue against what's bad. That's what we're doing here on a satellite view. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.